Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the middle of the African wilderness. We're in the northeast corner of the most beautiful country in South Africa. You are live and you are watching Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good afternoon again. My name is James Hendry. On camera today, Brian the Thumb Joubert. And Brian, a very special thumb today.
Indeed.
What is its significance?
It is the whale that the blue-bearded pirate fisherman was after.
The blue-bearded pirate fisherman, which was another thumb, correct, for our new viewers. Right, everybody, the narrative of the thumb continues to baffle and delight us as we drive through the wilderness on our live safaris. Welcome to it. For the next 3 hours, we will be in your company on the other vehicle, Hayden Turner, the inimitable Duke of Sydney, and he's being filmed by Jean-Dre and his dreadlocks. Vile things that they are. Now, we've come into this area to try and find some lions. They were left somewhere around here this morning, I think with the little cubs, so I'm reticent to go wandering about on foot for too long. We're going to drive around here and just see if we can't find them again. I'm pretty sure we will do eventually, because lions don't tend to do a whole lot during the middle of the day. When I say you're on a live safari, if you happen to be a new viewer, that means you are on a live safari. So we can talk to you. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to hear where you're from. We'd love to have any queries you have about the animals we're seeing, the landscape, where we are, and especially about potential travel to Africa. That's really important. Hashtag Safari Live is how you can talk to us on Twitter. Otherwise, you can speak to us on the email at questions@wildearth.tv. It's 26 degrees Celsius at the moment, which I think is around 78 degrees Fahrenheit, if I remember correctly. But there's a wind now, and it's changed. It was blowing from the northwest over there until probably about an hour ago. It switched. It's coming from the southeast. It's much cooler than those hot, what we call berg winds that come out of the northwest. So I think we're probably in for a bit of a front tomorrow. It's quite a nice feeling, actually, this cool breeze on us. I'd say that the winter has turned, and we're probably, certainly in this part of the country, we're starting to look up towards spring and the real business end of the dry season now. Alright, welcome to it. We're going to do a little loop around here and we'll come back and see if we can find some further tracks of the lions. These I was wearing before we went live because it is very bright, isn't it, Brian?
It is.
So bright. But my mummy always said to me, "You may not talk to people with sunglasses on, James. It's very rude." So I don't. See that, Brian? Yes. Very important. I've been pulled out of my ear comms. Go again, Kirsten. Kirsten is directing today. Alright, let's go back across to Hayden Turner, the Duke of Sydney. He's managed to find you a cat already.
Thank you, Mr. James Hendry. Welcome everyone to a wonderful afternoon here in the Sabi Sands, and what a beautiful, beautiful day it is. There is a cool breeze, James is just mentioning. It's a beautiful afternoon, and we've come back to see our dear friend Karula, and I have the wonderful Jean-Dre on camera with me today, which is fantastic. Jean-Dre and I haven't done a drive since about, November last year, which is great to be on drive with Jean-Dre. So we've just pulled up here and we just wanted to see what was going on. Karula was just sort of up a little bit up the drainage line. The cubs were in another location, and we just pulled up. We just gently sat here for a while. They stayed there for a while, and then the cubs started to play a little bit, and then Karula, they annoyed her a little bit, I think, and she had a little snarl at one of them, and then she's walked down to have a little bit more of a feed on that impala that she took yesterday afternoon. So she's really clever. She's such an incredible mother and such a wonderful, experienced leopard. We've watched her this morning and last night. covering or caching that kill and covering it with dirt and leaves, and not putting in the tree. It's there for her cubs to have a feed on as and when they need, and she's done an amazing job. So she's enjoying a little bit herself now, and we're just keeping an eye on it as well. It's great to be in her presence, of course, as I said before. But as you all know, I don't have to tell you about Karula. Many of you know more about Karula than I do, that's for sure. But for those of you who have just maybe joined us and could be on your first drive, welcome aboard. This is one of the most incredible wildlife experiences on the planet to be on Safari Live. For us, that's for sure, and for everyone that's on board with us. Look at her. Beautiful girl. Completely relaxed, just looking up to see what's going on from us. And welcome aboard. This is a live broadcast from, I'm actually on Djuma Game Reserve at the moment in Sabi Sands in South Africa, to the west of Kruger National Park, and what a great privilege it is for me to be here for this week. This morning we did a wonderful drive with schools in Australia. We had just under 1,000 students watching us this morning from about 30 different schools from all over the state, some really remote areas as well, which was a pretty awesome feeling to know that we were bringing these pictures similar to what we're looking at right now into classrooms all over the state of New South Wales in Australia. So we're on a normal or regular drive, for want of a better term. There's nothing such as a regular drive here on Safari Live. I always say, you know, we are visitors or ticket holders in the theatre of nature, really. And just here observing this beautiful leopard, who is very famous and is a very successful mother, and she's doing a beautiful job raising her 7-month-old cubs, which they've been here all day. So we're elevated at the moment. We're probably about, I would say, 3 to 5 meters higher than her, and we're sort of on an angle at the moment. The vehicle's on an angle. It's a very, very thick wooded area. That's great. She's doing exactly the right thing. Excuse me, please. And she's in a really greatly covered area. It's tricky for us, but fantastic for her. So we'll sit with her for a little bit longer and just watch and observe, and maybe the cubs will come up and have a bit of a play, and then we'll just see what happens. We might go off and leave her for a bit and then come back a bit later. It is quite warm. When we came here, she was sort of sprawled out over the cool sand, and then she decided to get up, as I said, when the cubs annoyed her a little bit. But we'll just sit with her and have a little bit more of a look, because it's also wonderful just to see her always. Just got a question from, I think it's Abhishek. Welcome aboard, and thank you for your question. You want to know where Karula's cubs are. Well, just to the right, Gendre's just panning around there at the moment. They're sort of just up in the little cool nook, or little sort of spot around that corner, that bend in the drainage line, and we can't see them from here. They have been messing about a little bit, but they're there around there, both of them safely tucked away, and Mum is definitely keeping a very, very careful eye as she eats, but also a careful ear. Incredible sense of hearing, leopards as well, and we saw her yesterday just sit up in this most magnificent position of you know, her ears perfectly attuned to the bush, and she wasn't sure what it was, and she sat up in such a manner that it was like she was ready to go and grab those cubs or take on whatever it was, but then she just settled back down. But ears and eyes and smell, all fantastic senses on these predators that they use on a daily basis, not just to hunt but to look after themselves. As you all know, the leopard, you know, I always call the Rolls Royce, or the sort of the pure embodiment of feline beauty and power, but they will run up a tree from definitely a hyena and other smaller things, smaller than themselves as well, and that's quite hard to figure out. But they can be extremely bold and they can be extremely timid, and they're both characteristics that these beautiful cats have. I really do love just sitting and being in their presence, and I know you all do too. So welcome aboard, and great to have you with us. We don't really have any opportunity to get into a better position, folks, so we're just going to sit here and be for a bit. If the cubs do come out, I'll definitely try and reposition so Jean-Dre can get a better spot. But if you've got any questions, please send us a tweet or an email. It's #SafariLive on Twitter, and it's questions@WildEarthTV for email. And please send us any questions you've got or comments. We'd love to hear from you. This is what it's all about. Interacting with you is what this is all about, the Safari Live drives, and you are the biggest part of our team here. The animals and the habitat we're very, very fortunate to be in, but you are such an important component. You're on the back of our vehicle, and anything you've got to ask us, or you want to make some comments, or you could help me out a little bit with some information, anything you know that you think I could know, a little snippet or tidbit of information about Karula, I'd love to hear from you. So she's really getting the most out of that. We've got a question from HK, and HK, it's a really good question. We had a similar one this morning, and your question is, since getting on board with Wild Earth in 2014, when I started and was very fortunate to do some drives then, and in a couple of the big cat weeks, I've seen some seasonal changes, and I go away and I come back and I really notice the difference. Sometimes when you're in the location a lot, it's like anywhere in your world, you don't see the changes dramatically. So when I do come back, I notice dramatic change in my own mind. And your question is, have I seen that dramatic change since I started, or in the seasons? I particularly have, HK, with this time that I've come back. It is very dry, but we know that winter is dry in South Africa and all across Southern Africa. It's a harsh time. Nature has adapted to it. All the animals adapted to it. All the plants have adapted to it, and it's tricky. But at the moment, there's an extended sort of dryness to it, and coupled with a couple of climatic conditions that are going on in the world right now, and you can probably look up, I talked about it this morning, the effects of El Nino and what's predicted there in the future, and I think that has had an impact. It's definitely had an impact on the animals' behaviour. We're seeing a fair bit of elephant impact at the moment, and we all had to talk about it at breakfast this morning, and there's not much you can do really. It is what it is, and the elephants have to eat, and they will impact as they impact. We will get rain at some point, and nature looks after that, but it's definitely something that's noticeable. So yes, HK, to answer your question, I have seen a considerable impact. But you know what? Nature will always find a way. Thank you very much for your question, and great to have you on board. So what we might do is just try and reposition, and whilst we're doing that, I'm going to cross over to the wonderful James Hendry and see what he's got up his sleeve. We'll be back with you right now.
Unfortunately, everybody, I have got absolutely nothing up my sleeve. I have either misinterpreted my information or been given bad information about where these lions were left. Now, I'm told they were between Aubrey's and Sandy Patch Road. That's where we are. Just as the road bends towards Sydney's Dam. That's where we are. There are no tracks going either off the road here towards Aubrey's Road, so I'm just rather confused. We'll keep going down here and see what we can find. Now, there is, like I mentioned, the wind blowing. But there is also a real harshness about the light this afternoon, and that will dissipate, of course, as we go towards the sunset. But it can look very harsh, and I've always felt, especially in my travels around the villages of rural South Africa, that this time of the day, oh, here we go, there's some tracks. They seem to be going straight back onto the road, though. I don't know, we'll just follow them to their zenith, and then we might have to go and look somewhere else. Anyway, so I've spent a lot of time in the villages outside these reserves, and they're very poor, and they're dusty, and they're wind-blown, and then suddenly at about 4 or 4:30, when the light changes and the softness comes and the heat breaks, they become the most amazingly attractive places, with kids playing in the streets, and the ladies sort of sitting outside their homes talking to each other, one or two men going across to the illegal drinking houses that they have. And I'm always struck by how amazingly different the light can make a place look. And you will notice, as you just try and watch until the end of the drive, you will notice how this place becomes a golden, just a kind of golden picture of delight, as opposed to the slightly drought-riddled area it looks like now. Thomas in Pennsylvania, nice question from you, just while Brian is avoiding being killed by thorns. Thomas, you want to know about the local people here, and are there local people here, and are they, or indigenous people, is there any way to talk to them? Well, yes, absolutely, Thomas, there completely is. Do you mean for you or for anyone? We have a number of local people, Shangaan people, working with us. The most notable, who you will see quite frequently if you keep watching, is Herbert, who is our tracker and game scout. And he's a local Shangaan person with a wealth of traditional indigenous knowledge. And we had an incredible experience with him yesterday when we went tracking some lions on foot, and we found them and we viewed them on foot, and it was just a tremendous experience. So yes, Thomas, there's absolutely a way to speak to the local people here. Most of them, of course, speak English, and so there's a wealth of knowledge to be gained, and a wealth of interesting cultural information that you can learn from the local people here. These lions are not around here, but we will find them, people. Fear not. Do not be fearful. You will find them at some stage. There is a lovely shot of a starling sitting on this bush. Oh, you nasty little bird. There he is, he's back on the top there. He's a Cape Glossy starling, and he's, as I've said to many of you before, very closely related and very similar looking to a greater blue-eared glossy starling. But when he flew off there, you may have heard him, he went and that has always reminded me of Cape Glossy starling. Cape Glossy starling, that's how I remember it. The greater blue-eared glossy starling has got a very nasal, and you can actually hear some flying above us now. And I always liken that to them saying blue, blue, and that's how I know the difference between the Cape Glossy starling and the greater blue-eared glossy starling. Brian, did you know that?
No.
You do now, though. You are sore amazed, are you not?
Can't believe it.
You can't believe it. I know you can't. Well, there you are.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something very difficult. You see that bird flying there? Can you try and train the camera on it? I know it's going to be difficult. I just want to see what it is, because I'm looking for the first Wahlberg's eagle of the season. That is not a Wahlberg's eagle. That is a white-backed vulture. Now, I know that it's but a speck on the horizon, but you can tell from the way it's flying It's not a Wahlberg's because it's not the right shape. It hasn't got a long enough tail, and its wings aren't sort of in a cross shape enough. Otherwise it just flies like a white-backed vulture, so that's what it is. Not a Wahlberg's eagle, Brian? No, not yet. We will find it though. Right, let's continue in our hunt for the lions. Right. Hayden is back with the same kitties, but this time some smaller versions. I will try and find the lions.
So we've moved from a big one to a little one. How beautiful. It's got up on cue there too and walked straight through that beautiful dappled light. Mum is crunching through bones at the moment, and the little cubs are just walking right underneath us. Poor Gendre's been struggling to make this work. We did get that one little shot for you, but it's always a bit tricky, you know, with this. They're in the right spot for them, which is not always the great spot for us, and that's the way it works. We have to work around that, of course. And, you know, they're protected down there, and it's great for them, so that's the most important thing. And the little cubs are really safe there. But we've just been manoeuvring ourselves around this location to try and get a picture of that, the cub, at least one cub for you. So from bigger to smaller, but I just was looking at the paw size. Just have a little look at that. I've just put it up on my app, and it's a little bit easier to see there. It's sort of the difference in the shape of paw, and I was just looking at Karula's paws as she was holding on to that kill as she was eating, and this is the leopard paw here with that very distinctive sort of W, upside down W at the back there, where the line track is very, very flat across the bottom of the track. And I just thought that was a bit interesting, just to give you a bit of a size or ratio comparison. This one, the actual front pads are really sort of nearly round and quite chunky, whereas these ones are a little bit more elongated on the line. And that is what James Hendry is looking for right as we speak. So I think we probably should get on the move and leave these guys a little bit, because they are moving around into very, very difficult positions. And, you know, we've had some beautiful sightings of Karula and the cubs in the last sort of 24 hours. She was up in this tree yesterday, so we'll just do a little tootle around a little bit, have a little scratch around here. We might come across some ellies and a few other species, and see what we can find, and come back to this beautiful family later. Thank you very much, as always, and just have a little bit of a look round. So I just got a question from James Dungan, and James is asking what the most noticeable difference between Australia and Africa is for me. It's definitely the wildlife. James, it's definitely the species. Look, I could drop you into somewhere in South Africa and then take you across blindfolded on a plane, not tell you. We could have gone around in a circle for all you know, and then drop you in a place in Australia, and you could probably think you're on the same continent. It's very, very similar in its vegetation in places, not always, but obviously South Africa and Australia, if you get down to the nitty-gritty, incredibly diversely different. But wow, we're in a country right now that is classified as mega diverse. I mean, South Africa is one of the most amazing places on the planet, there's no doubt about it, and I love this country so much. I love it as much as Australia, but the wildlife is very, very different. Australia got all the marsupials, incredibly unique creatures that have got a very, very unique way of reproduction, you know, giving birth to barely developed young, and then growing them and nurturing them in a pouch, where they will suckle in a pouch, and most of the mammals do that. Whereas over here, we don't have any marsupials, and Australia actually doesn't have any natural herbivore or grazing animals, or ungulates for that matter, hoofed animals. We don't have an indigenous hoofed animal in Australia. The animals that we do have there that have hooves have all been introduced since 1888, and that was horses, cows, sheep, goats, pigs, camels, and all those other species. And they do have an impact on the environment, that's for sure. So as soon as you unbalance an environment with a non-indigenous species, you start to get issues, you start to get competition, you start to get, particularly when you introduce a species, whether it be a mammal or anything else, it may not have a natural predator, and that's when the balance goes completely out of whack. So that's happened a lot in Australia, but you know, there's some really great organisations working tirelessly to try and get on top of things like that. Not always easy, that's for sure. But to get back to your question, James, the wildlife, and I think as a kid, I think anywhere in the world, James, that you always look abroad, don't you? You get complacent with what you've got at home. After being away for 25 years from Australia, I actually have gone back to Australia with a completely new lease of life on the wildlife we've got there. It looked like one of my favourite mammals droppings on the ground there, Gendre. I just noticed something I'm just keeping an eye out for. We'll keep everyone on the back of the vehicle in suspense, because I do feel like we may be upon them somewhere. But James, yeah, it's the animals, and I always just used to lie in front of the television as a kid, absolutely in awe of Africa. As I said, I've got a newfound love of Australian wildlife, and it's been great. It's been great, particularly seeing it through my son and my wife's eyes as well, because my wife is originally, she's from Zimbabwe, and my little boy was born in the United Kingdom, so it's been great to show them all the fantastic Australian animals through their eyes as well, and rediscover them. Laura just asked a question, and hello Laura, welcome aboard, thank you very much for being with us today, asking me about Australian koalas, in Australia. There's definitely a problem. You're asking if they are losing, or the numbers are depleting because of habitat loss. Absolutely it is, it always is. Habitat loss is probably one of the biggest impacts on the planet, and fragmentation. As human populations become greater, they fragment corridors for animals to move. It happens all over the world, and that's one of the things we really strive to improve, I think, is one of the best things I could say. But the habitat loss is one thing, but there's also, unfortunately, a couple of diseases that are transmitted between koalas that have been a problem. They've been doing a lot of research on that. Koala populations in some areas, Laura, are stable, and then in other areas not so. So, you know, we always make sure that we have fantastic insight into that, lots of great research, lots of fantastic universities and zoos in Australia, including Taronga Zoo, where I work now, doing amazing work to make sure koalas, one of those iconic, magnificent species that we have there, has a future. That's very important. But thank you very much for the question, Laura. Never did I think I'd be sitting here in Africa driving around answering questions about koalas. So that's brilliant. Thank you so much. We're just having a little look along here. I just want to go up to see if there's any ellies around one of the permanent water points up here, Viatella Pan. You never know. It's more luck of the draw. Elephants come and drink at irregular and regular times. It just depends on the herd and so on, but and the matriarch. But we'll just tootle along here and have a little bit of a look. But I think we should go back to James and get a bit of an update from him, because I'm really keen to find these lines. So we'll see you just now.
He certainly is very keen to find these lions, everyone, but he's failing dismally at this stage. Anyway, we're going to just do a little loop around this area, and then we're probably going to see what else we can see. It's been quite a warm day, so definitely worth going towards the waterholes and seeing if there aren't any elephants around the place. And apparently they were around here somewhere. Oh well, never mind, we will find them. Better to look at them in the evening light than this light, don't you think, Brian? Yes. Yes, saving them for later. Building everyone's expectations and then just releasing them at the end, you know? Just looking into the undergrowth here. You can easily drive past Pride of Lions, of course, in this kind of vegetation, because they don't like to lie out in the sun on a hot day. So they could easily be in the deep shade somewhere, watching us drive up and down the road, thinking, what a bunch of gormless idiots. Do you think that's what they're thinking, Brian?
Most likely.
Most likely, what a bunch of gormless idiots. Okay, what we'll do now is just pop up the road here to Sydney's Dam, see if they haven't decided that they'd like to have a drink there and lie next to the waters. I nearly said crystalline waters, of course that would have been a blatant untruth, for they are no more crystalline than the waters of Buffelshoek Dam, perhaps. Taxon's getting mobile, so we're just going to ask him. Afternoon, no sightings updates so far, can't relocate on the Nkumas. Sorry, Kirsten, you're going to have to go with the game. Same place, F. Debbie in Vancouver, nice one from you about the signs of spring. Now, the first sign of spring, sorry, you know, we got loud noise from the radio. First sign of spring for me is not actually the Wahlbergs, it's the knobthorn flowers. The knobthorns have already started putting out one or two flowers, long sort of rakuses of sweet-smelling, pale honey-yellowed flowers, and they are around at the moment. So that's kind of the first sign of the heat. No lions there. But there are some quite interesting guinea fowl to the left of us, and some impala. There we are. One must stop for impala at least once a day. That is a rule, and one should always stop for guinea fowl because they're very amusing to look at. There's such a kind of It's such an incongruous sort of shape. They can fly pretty well, they run incredibly fast, and they're rather iconic as ground-dwelling birds out here. And I remember once when I was a child, we went on a little bush trip with some family friends, and I saw these things doing precisely what they're doing here. I was probably about 12, and filled with a sense of my own brilliance, speed, athleticism and general magnificence, and I bet that I could catch one on foot. And this bet, of course, was taken up by the much wiser and older family friend, much to the consternation of my father, and I went herring after one of these things, not realizing that they can actually fly, and I scattered the entire flock, of course. And, well, I was 20 rand the poorer. Now, 20 rand back then, well, that was millions of rands now, wasn't it, Brian? Yeah, back in 1927. And that is the helmeted guinea fowl. One of two species of guinea fowl that we find, but only one that we find here. You do get the other one, the crested guinea fowl, in the northern reaches of the Kruger Park, but not round here. Righty, they're trying to find a couple of seeds to eat, the last grass seeds now. Well, interestingly, but just before we move on, if the rain was to come, like the rain did come a little while, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and there was a flush of green, that green comes largely from a seed bed that is very extensive. So if you are a bird like this and you like to eat seeds, they'll also eat insects and probably the odd fruit. If you scrabble around in the sand enough, you will find grass seeds, and I think that's probably what they're trying to find now. See, even though it looks like it's pretty barren and that there's not much there, there are probably quite a few seeds, and were you to just sprinkle some water there, you'd find grass immediately springing out of this very sodic or nutrient-rich soil. Well, that's enough of the guinea fowl. Don't you think, Brian? They are quite nice. Have you ever eaten a guinea fowl?
I haven't.
It's disgusting. Yeah. It's not that gamey. It's a bit like eating a ball of string. Yeah. Ball of cotton. Same consistency as dental floss, really. And it's always amused me at the lodges that I've worked, everyone, where they've served guinea fowl as a kind of local delicacy, you know, a local wild game meat. And to describe, I feel, the taste of guinea fowl as a delicacy is to do an injustice to delicacies around the world. It's very stringy. It tastes of generally whatever you cook it with. And that, to me, is the great test of whether something is worth eating or not. Whether it tastes more of what you cook it with or of its own flavour. And I think you find that with a lot of game animals and game birds, because they spend a lot of time using their muscles, they're quite hard. They're not sort of the kempt or kept farm animals. And we're going to go down the fire break here. Oh, there's a warthog. It doesn't bode well for lions, but it does bode well for the warthog. We'll just get into a position where we can see them, and I think this is probably our sounder that has been around here since these little piglets were born. But they seem to have lost a few, Brian. Do you remember there was 5 of them? Do you think the others have gone the way of all flesh?
Yeah,
Been
most likely.
devoured, suffered the claws and teeth of outrageous lions. Did you like my Shakespearean reference there, Brian?
Incredible.
It was, wasn't it? Yes. It was completely inappropriate, but I mean, you know. If you say things with a pompous enough accent, people believe them to be true. Yes, a sow and 2 piglets. You know what I think? I actually don't know that they have. I think the sounder may have just split up. There used to be another sow with 3 piglets, if I'm not mistaken. And maybe the others have they might have been eaten, but I wonder if they haven't just moved on. Now, what's interesting, if you look at these warthogs, you read in any textbook you like, they'll tell you that warthogs suffer the worst when there's a drought. Well, those warthogs look to be in pretty good nick to me. You can easily see when a warthog is not in a good way. And those ones are in a very fine way. But we would drive, as I was explaining, I think it was yesterday, I was driving back from Hoedspruit on Saturday afternoon. And just outside one of the reserves there, the warthogs have all escaped. And they're eating on the road verge, which isn't good grass, but it's the only grass available to them. And they look horrendous. So they are really struggling from the drought. But the ones here, interestingly, in the open system that is the Kruger Park, these guys seem to be doing fine. And I think you'll find that has a lot to do with the fact that there's I hesitate to say balance, but there's a bit more of an equilibrium about the ecology in an open system than there would be on a piece of land that has to be actively managed all the time by the landowners. They don't like us very much, do they, Brian? It's because we spoke about them being eaten. Now, quite unlike guinea fowl, everybody, warthogs are delicious to eat. Have you eaten warthog, Brian?
I haven't.
That you would enjoy. Very tender. I'm just scanning the bush behind them, and the off chance they're not about to step into a lion, which is what happened when we found them on foot yesterday. A whole sounder of warthogs came walking past them, and 2 of the lions went after them, and I think one of the boars turned and actually gave one of the lions a bit of a smack, and they gave up. Right, let's carry on. And of course, the ultimate delicacy that people will try and con you into eating out here and describe it as a delicacy is the Mopani worm. It's a caterpillar. It is edible, but I mean, coriander is edible, Brussels sprouts are edible. What else is edible, Brian? Kidneys and liver are edible. Various things are edible but are not necessarily considered delicacies. And the Mopani worm, an important part of the local diet because of the lack of protein in the diet, but a delicacy it is most assuredly not. In fact, I can't think of one real South African delicacy. And if we include the rusk, for example, have you got a rusk with you? Can I demonstrate? Can I show everybody a rusk? That, everybody, is a rusk. Now, this in South Africa is considered food. In most parts of the world, this is considered a weapon or a building material. Right, on that note, we're going to keep looking for the lions. Let's head back across to Hayden and get an update from him.
James Hendry, isn't he wonderful? Oh, the man can talk about anything. I love that. It's fantastic. And James, it's been an absolute pleasure to see James again. That's for sure. And go on drive with him. But look what we've come across. One of my favourites. And Jandre was just saying to me that they haven't seen a lot of buffalo of late. And we just turned around the corner here, and there's all these bachelor, it's a bachelor herd. Some very, very big boys in there. And they're all taking it very easy, relaxing. Just behind them is a little water point, permanent water point, which they've all, I think, had a bit of a crack on, and just now ruminating. Now, many of you know what ruminating is, but for those of you that may not, we're looking at a ruminant, a group of very, very successful, probably the most successful group of hoofed animals that there are. Animals that have the ability to regurgitate their food and chew it over again and get incredible sort of nutrition and efficiency out of that cellulose, that plant matter, which is very hard to digest. So through certain bacteria that they have in their stomach and the process of fermentation, it breaks down into a carbohydrate that they can absorb as energy. You can see, I think, that one that Jandre's got right in shot there is ruminating. You see it chewing its cud. You probably see, I mentioned it yesterday, but you might see just even in your own local countryside cows ruminating as they're lying down or even standing. So that's what many of them are doing right now, and completely relaxed with us. Just to the left of that individual that Jandre's got in shot there, there's a couple just rolled over on their side, and it's so relaxed there, which is always a great way to view wildlife. You know, obviously trying to get within the distance that we can see them well, but of course trying not to change their behaviour, or when we come into their environment to just let them be. And we approach nice and quietly, slowly approach them, and they've just stayed exactly where they are. So they have a massive set of cheek teeth and this sort of broad incisor row that, and that coupled with that prehensile tongue, it allows them to really gather bundles of grass which you eat with each bite. And this is one of the things that these guys are doing really well at. They can eat the coarse grass, they can eat the grass that isn't so sweet. So when grass is pretty scarce or unpalatable, these guys can cope with that. Now, they do love water. That's the other thing. They will like to try and drink at least once a day, and that's why they're just hanging near this water point right now. But, you know, in times that are tough as well, they're predominantly grazers, but they will browse. I've seen them browsing on vegetation a lot of times. They've got red-billed oxpeckers on there, a couple of their faces, just slightly annoying. That one just over there, just slightly annoying them, sitting on the back of them at the moment. A couple just flying around their faces and ears. So this wind has picked up, folks. It's very cool, and we will talk a little bit about the wind now as well. The wind is blowing, and that makes a tendency for animals, particularly the hoofed animals. I don't know, I've picked up over years and years of watching, and I know many others have as well. When it's windy like this, they have a tendency to get into the cover a little bit, because you know what it's like when you're in a wind or you're on a bicycle or the wind's going through your ears, past your ears. It's very hard to hear. And I've always thought that, they get into a bit of a more protected area to get out of that wind, and they can hear a little bit better. But the buffalo, with the strength of numbers that they have, there's not going to be anything really that's going to give them a worry. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 individuals there. Yeah, that's just short of a pretty serious team. That is a team to be reckoned with, so they have no worries. They're happy just to be out in the open. There's 26 degrees Celsius and about 78 Fahrenheit at the moment, and that, Jean-Ray was just saying, it's an unusually warm day at the moment. It is really, really hot, and they're just doing what they do, ruminating, and we might just leave them be and move on. I'm not going to drive past them, because if I drive past them I'm going to disturb them, so I'm going to reverse out of here. But thank you very, very much, Mr. Buffaloes. They're really cool. I love buffalo. I really enjoy them. I just think they're really, really cool. Now, just had thank you very much, Buffs. Just had a really interesting question from Teresa in Virginia Beach. Just while I reverse Teresa, I'll just get out of these Buffs zone so we don't disturb them. And from Virginia Beach, Teresa, welcome aboard, great to have you. And you'd like to discuss giraffe vocalizations. Well, wow. It's an interesting one. It's a very interesting one. There's a lot of research going on, Teresa, at the moment about whether giraffes make any form of sound that is in a frequency that's inaudible to our ears. There's a lot of research going on. There's research projects going on in Africa and in captivity in zoos at the moment around the world. And people are thinking that they do actually make some sound that we don't hear. But to your question about vocalizations that we can hear, I have only ever really heard, and after I've worked with giraffe for, gosh, nearly 30 years. No, not nearly 30, 25, 20 years-ish. Many years in captivity and then in the wild, and I still have a very, very big part in working with giraffe conservation, and particularly with a very good friend of mine, Dr. Julian Fennessy, who heads up with his wonderful wife Steph Fennessy in Namibia, the world's leading giraffe organisation or research organisation called the Giraffe Conservation Foundation. Now I work on that team for the simple reason I'm really passionate about giraffes. I love them. I think they're one of the most incredible animals. And Julian has been telling me there's some research papers coming out in the next probably month that is going to change the whole way that we look at giraffe and think about giraffe. That's the first exciting thing. He's also got some students working with him and through him on giraffe vocalizations. But I've only ever heard giraffe make a sort of roaring or a grunting sound. And what it correlates with, whether it was danger or whether it was just coughing or the like, or some sort of physiological noise that they were making, I'm not sure, but it's like a roaring or a grunting sound. It's like someone clearing their throat in a way, and that's the only time I've ever heard them make a sound. I hand-reared a giraffe in a zoo about 25 years ago, 23 years ago even, and it never made a sound that I could hear. So we're not sure. The jury's out a little bit there, and I think one of the interesting things that comes out of this, I'll just sort of round up with it for you, is that everyone thinks giraffe are okay. They just think that, oh yeah, giraffe are okay, we see them in all the pictures and everything. The status of giraffe in Africa, on the continent, is actually very, very tricky at the moment. There's a lot of habitat loss, there's a lot of fragmentation. You've probably heard of something called the IUCN Red List, which is the International Union for Conservation of Nature. They have a red list of all creatures on that are threatened, and it goes from least concern, which is animals they don't have to worry about. Well, not worry about, but they're of least concern. The numbers are just stable, up to critical, up to endangered, up to, the worst, of course, which is extinct. And 2 giraffes have been put onto the endangered species list. One is in Niger, that is the giraffe that occurs up there, and then also the Rothschild giraffe as well. So it's very, very important. That's also known as the Baringo giraffe. If you do want more information on this, you can go onto that website, this giraffeconservation.org, and pick up. There's loads and loads of resources there. I highly recommend it. If you're passionate about giraffes, it'll answer many a question, and it's got a great newsletter you can subscribe to. And yeah, it's one of those animals that's a silent worry at the moment. Everyone thinks there's loads of them left, but I tell you what, latest counts and research has shown that there's approximately just over 90,000 giraffe left in Africa. Much different numbers than people thought. It's it's something we have to keep an eye on, and it's got a lot to do with, we have to work forward with governments, and I have to take my hat off to the Niger, or however you want to pronounce it, government. They had about 50 of their giraffe, their subspecies, in Niger, and the government made an absolutely a full-on commitment to repopulating that giraffe, and there's now about 500 of them. So that's a really great success story, and hopefully we're going to have more of them. But great question, thank you very, very much, Teresa, and you know how passionate I am about my giraffe. It's something we always have to keep our eye on, and as we do all species. So we're going to move on now. Jandre and I were just having a talk about Bafelshoek Dam again. We're just going to have a little drive up there. There is a little bit of water in it. It's pretty rank, the water, but we might see some elephants bathing up there or something, because it seems to be very quiet around, and this wind, we'll just see what we can come up with. But let's cross over to James and get an update from him, and I'll come back to you just now.
Hello everybody, we had another 758 confusing messages about where the lions were left. Nobody seems to have any consensus, so we're leaving. And we'll come back here, I think, as the sun goes down. It gets a little bit cooler, maybe they'll become mobile, they'll stick their heads out of the thick bush and they'll walk around a bit, and then maybe we'll be able to find them. But I'm afraid that's it for now. So we are going to head along in an easterly direction towards the eastern fringes of the reserve. We'll give you a view of the clouds building off to the southeast and see what other wonders this wilderness has to give us. It's a very oddly chilly wind. Hello! A viewer called Easy Peasy. Hello, Easy Peasy. Let me just compose myself briefly. Nice to hear from you. I'm not sure if we've heard from you before, Easy Peasy, but it is very good to hear from you now. Easy Peasy, do tell us where you're calling from. I want to know about indigenous species versus exotics. Are all the species in the Kruger indigenous, or have some been reintroduced? All of the species that are occurred here, bar the exotics, that plant species that have come down the rivers from time to time out of the communities and the farmlands to the west of the park. Everything else is indigenous, but so all the mammals are indigenous, but there have been localized reintroductions of species that have gone locally extinct. For example, the white rhino and black rhino, which went locally extinct or almost locally extinct in this area, that were repopulated from Natal or KwaZulu, which is down in the sort of east coast regions of South Africa, but they were indigenous here originally. I thought I saw an aminal there, Brian. It may not have been an aminal though, it may have been a stick. A marula stick? Yeah. A good stick to see. Yeah, I think it was a marula stick, everybody. Sorry about that. So easy peasy, none of the mammals or birds that you see here are introduced. There is a species of snail that Steph and Jamie discovered called a banded snail. That's exotic. We're not entirely sure where it comes from. Well, I'm not. I think it probably comes. I think it's a South American species. There's the animal that I saw. It's the Nyala. It's charging us, Brian, you see? It's in full charge. Here it is, everybody. That's what I saw. It wasn't a stick after all. My eyes, aging as they are, did not deceive me. And what is it eating? Is it eating those dry leaves? Some greeny ones. Also looks in pretty good nick. Very fine muscle definition about the shoulder. They are such beautiful antelope. Oh, and maybe you heard there in the background the call of the three-streaked chagra. It's now called the brown-crowned chagra, sorry. There we are. A male Nyala. It's quite satisfying saying it like that, Brian. You should try it. You see? It is satisfying, isn't it? Yes. Everybody, try it. 2 words out here. Well, there are a few. Ziziphus being one of them. Ziziphus. Ziziphus, it just feels good. And Nyala. One goes mad if one sits in the sun and looks for lions too long. One's madness is encouraged, of course, by Brian, who fuels it slightly. I mean, how many other people do you know who have a narrative going with their thumbs? Brian, how many pictures of that one very dedicated thumb viewer taken? 630 pictures of Brian's thumb, but all of them unique designs.
Pretty much.
I'm astounded. And let's just quickly look in here, mainly because it's always good to have a stretch, everybody. So jump out the car, stretch your legs, and come and have a look over here. This is where our sounder of warthogs used to live, the same one that we were talking about. And I don't know why they left here. Can you hear me, Brian? But there's definitely no fresh activity here. But they used to squeeze about, what was it? They used to squeeze about 8 warthogs into this hole. But it doesn't look like there's any fresh activity there. That said, there are flies, and they are those flies that are associated with aardvark. Just kidding. There's nothing in there. It's a really deep hole. You can't see the bottom of it. I don't know why they left it. It looks like such a good spot. And quite to what you might think. I'm breaking up. If I turn my back to you, better. So quite contrary to what you might think, everyone, warthogs will abscond from their burrows if they're threatened. They don't stay in there unless the predator is right on top of the mound, in which case they will. Otherwise, they just disappear. And so if we were to go up towards there and they were in there, they'd come out and run away. Hello, Nina from Spain. We're often asked about the danger of our jobs. You want to know what the most dangerous situation I've ever been in is while walking in the bush. Walking or any situation. Kirsten? Any situation, right, not just walking. Right, the most dangerous situation I've ever been in is a very simple answer. It was when we were watching some wild dogs, and many of you would have heard this story before. The wild dogs chased a leopard up a tree like this, and then the leopard came down and ran away and went up another tree like this, and that happened sort of 5 or 6 times, and then eventually it went into a kind of real thicket. The leopard ran into a thicket, chased by the wild dogs, and we kind of weaved our way through and around, and eventually we saw them, and just underneath a tree, pinned underneath a tree like... 1 second. Like this. Like the sort of fallen branch there. You see that fallen branch there? The leopard had been pinned right underneath there by the 3 wild dogs, and he was trying to fight back, but then the dogs let him go as we came around the corner, because they got a fright from us. And the leopard looked at us and he just came straight at the car. He jumped onto the bonnet. Now, why he stopped there and didn't jump back or didn't come onto the people at the back of the car, I don't know, but he could have killed 3 or 4 people, I guess, before we could even have breathed. He didn't do that. He fell off the car, and the dogs came up, and they were all so close that I couldn't see over the front of the vehicle. I didn't know where they were, and the tracker, who was a wonderful tracker and brilliant animal behaviorist, said that he's going to come again, you've got to move. And I couldn't, because we'd backed up onto a termite mound, so I reversed a little bit, but I couldn't go any further. And sure as nuts, the leopard came round and he came at my door, and we didn't have a door in those cars. There was just an opening, so my legs were exposed. So I swung the car and it went up the side of the termite mound. Now, the greatest danger that we faced there was that I actually nearly turned the car over with the guests in it, and that would have been catastrophic. Tracker said, stop, 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 so I stopped the car. The leopard jumped onto the bonnet again, and then he mauled the tracker seat. There was a seat on the front there, but we used to put the trackers in the back when we went into a predator sighting. And as he fell off, a little gap between the dogs opened, and we just drove out and we didn't stop. So that was the most dangerous situation I've ever been in. It's possible that I've been in more dangerous situations and just not realized it, but that's the most dangerous situation that I've realized I've been in. It's not common though. So you mustn't think that if you're thinking of traveling out here that you're going to have a sort of Red Bull extreme sporting experience. It's not going to be dangerous. It's adventurous to a certain extent, but it most certainly is not a dangerous thing to do. Alright, let's go and get an update from Hayden. I'm going to head a little bit faster along here and see if we can't find our white-faced owls.
Well, folks, just still scratching around. Gendry and I have really noticed a sort of not lack of mammals, but just the quietness at the moment. And we do put it down to the wind. It's all very quiet, and that's fine. That's the way things are. There's a lot of elephant activity and a lot of tracks around, spoor around of different species. But what I did see back down there before further was the droppings of giraffe, and it looked like, well, here's some more here right in front of us. So we're just going to keep sort of having a little bit of a look down here. We think there could be possibly giraffe down in here somewhere. And we just want to just keep having a bit of a look around, because I'd love to find a giraffe. I haven't seen a giraffe since I've been here. I'm just asking control folks just to repeat the little girl's name. I just want to hear that name again, please, control. Sabrina, fantastic. Sabrina, thank you very much for joining us today, matey. Great to have you on board. And you just said...
Right, sorry about that, everybody. We've just put our jerseys on. That wind is so very strong indeed. I'm just listening to the Game Drive radio. Somebody's trying to explain what the names are of those two cubs that used to be known as G and C. Remember that? Remember that, Brian, the good old days?
Oh, really good old days.
The good old days. It's Hosanna. Hosanna as in small chief, not Hosanna as in praise the Lord. Just clearing that up for everybody. Now, I want to see if our little white-faced owls are around. But there seems to be a very large white vehicle heading towards us at some speed. But they have very kindly moved off for us, so we shall lift our hats in respectfulness, and greet them fondly. And I'm pretty sure those are contractors who've been working on some of the private lodges here at Buffelshoek. Now, the little tree with our white-faced owls is just down here, and I watched the most amazing video which I told many of you about yesterday, because I couldn't believe that white-faced owls could look so completely different. And I'll show you what I mean with any luck. Now, it's this tree coming up on our right hand side. Gracie, good afternoon to you. I'm going to answer your question right now. I'm just going to look in this tree first. This is where the owls were, and they stayed here for a number of days. You see any of them? No, I don't think they're there anymore. Let me just go a little bit forward. No. No. They've moved. Sorry about that. I'm just going to get a quick update on the radio, Gracie. I will answer your question. Apparently Mvula has been seen. Sorry, I'm just trying to listen to what on earth is going on. Okay. Never mind, I'll get back to them. Gracie, you say, have we seen a pipit? A pip bird, you said, since we last saw them a few days ago. And do I still like to say pipit? Gracie, I love to say pipit. It's my favourite word out here at the moment, pipit. It's right up there with Nyala. And what was the other one? Ziziphus. A pipit, everybody, is a bird that you find in the clearings, and we find them on the airstrip at Arathusa. So, Gracie, yes, pipit. I still like to say it. It's a wonderful word, pipit. Mike, come in. Just going to quickly try and find out where that sighting is. Okay, in the meantime, let's go back across to Hayden and get an update from him. We're just at Buffelshoek Dam now. We might see you there.
Well, sorry about that, folks. We went through a little, what we call a black spot there. It happens a bit. Sometimes we lose a bit of signal, and I know many of you that have been with us for some time understand that. And if you're a new Safari Live viewer. Just got a couple of buffalo here again, which we might just get a couple of beautiful pictures of because it's a nice big bull. Just reverse up for Gendre here. They're just off in the area there. I don't know if that's any good, Gendre. Is that okay? Yeah, they're a bit behind a bit of vegetation, but a couple of nice big bulls again, just grazing through this area. And as we said, many animals in this at this time in this wind have just gone into the vegetation. So we did have that little black spot where we just dropped out a signal, and you know, that does happen, so apologies about that. Now back to Sabrina. Sabrina, hi, I'm back. Great to have you with us, that's the first thing. Most importantly, you are wonderful to be on board. 12 years of age, I hope you're very, very well. 12 years young, I should say, and if your favourite animal is giraffes, well, we have something very big in common there, my friend. And one of the things I would love to know a little bit more about, your message to us was that you spent the summer working with a baby giraffe. I'd really like to know more about that. Was it at a zoo? Was it, I don't know where it was, but I'd love to know a bit more. If you can send us a bit more information. But your question was, it was licking you a lot. Is that natural? Well, any animal that does lick a human a lot, particularly when it's a hoofed animal, it's normally got a lot to do with the salt on your skin, Sabrina. And it does happen, there's no doubt about that. I've just tried to stop in a spot for Gendre to get a nice little picture of a Nyala, but as I'm rolling forward, the Nyala's walking the other direction. There we go, gorgeous antelope. Beautiful, just looking around there. Not sure if you can see if I go down a little bit further. Just through there, staring at us. Look at that beautiful face. Gorgeous antelope. There's a male just off to the right, but he's in a bit of a thicket. But Sabrina, I think I would really like to know a little bit more about your story. So if you could send us a little bit more information, the directors can feed that through to me, and I can ask you some questions, because that sounds like an incredible experience, Sabrina, to do that. Look at this beautiful female Nyala. I love that walk. I love how they just sort of do that head back and forth, gently walking through. She's come out into the open for us. How beautiful. Probably not for us, but one would like to think sometimes. Gorgeous, those stripes just breaking up the body shape there. Beautiful adaptation, beautiful little bit of camouflage. We nearly missed her as we drove past, and you can see how she just disappears into that vegetation when she goes past there. Very similar stripes to the kudu. Those stripes are a unique stripe pattern. You can see how skittish she is though in this wind. It's very interesting. The ears going around 180 degrees, trying to figure out if there's any danger ahead. Walking through there gently. Beautiful. We will just carry on now. That was a nice little interlude. I love Nyala. So Sabrina, what an interesting moment you must have had, and I would love to know more. So tell us a little bit more about it. Your question, as I said, if an animal does lick your skin, or if it's a hoofed animal particularly, it's normally got a lot to do with the salt on our skin. We have a certain amount of salt in our sweat, and that does happen. But wow, if you've also been with a baby giraffe, I hand-reared a baby giraffe, so we've got another thing in common, buddy. That's great to hear. But there's giraffe droppings all around here. We've got a question from Susan in the Netherlands. Fantastic, Susan. Great to have you on board. I'm not sure how you're doing in the Olympics, but I haven't been watching, but I know that you guys go out in force to support your sporting teams in the wonderful fluorescent orange, so I hope you're doing well. Your question is, do giraffe bond with humans in captivity? Look, one would like to think so. Giraffes aren't, you know, look, I love them, but I have to be completely honest with you. If you want to compare them to like an elephant or something like that, they're not quite as probably reactive. They're a bit chilled, the old giraffe. They really do just sort of go about their ways. And when I hand reared that giraffe, it definitely knew who I was. We're seeing some beautiful antelope here. I'm coming back to you, Susan, I promise you, but I just wanted to see, we saw some young female of this species yesterday, and here is a beautiful bull. Beautiful bull. A Waterbuck. Really gorgeous animal. Super. Really, really beautiful example of an antelope that we don't see a lot of, but we do see the females quite often, and this guy is a great example of a male. Those beautiful, beautiful ridged horns. Super, super creature. So only the males have horns on this particular species. And the funny thing is about their name, I don't think in my life of seeing Waterbuck I've ever seen one in the water. They seldom swim, they prefer dry land, but they like to be around water, and they need to drink more regularly than most other hoofed animals I know of. So it's a very interesting thing about, I think their name is about more how they drink rather than seeing them in the water themselves. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. They do have fierce battles with each other, these guys. You can see how sharp those horns are. Very, very beautiful, beautiful animal. And they're found sort of throughout a little bit of southern Africa. They sort of go up into Zambia and then Tanzania, Kenya, across the middle of Central Africa, and then there's a bit of a gap in that real equatorial rainforest area. Then you do. Oh, he's just heard something there. Isn't that a beautiful, beautiful sight? Alert. Oh, that's stunning, stunning animal. Then they go right across into West Africa as well, I've seen them. There's two different species. There's the one called the common waterbuck, or the one we're seeing now, and there's another one called the Arathusa waterbuck, which is a little bit more up into East Africa and West Africa. But they don't often stick around for this long, so it's really lovely to see this beautiful bull. And they've got a bit of a sort of slow gait. I've got a lovely comment from Arathusa, who says she loves the heart-shaped nose of the waterbuck, and I totally agree with you, Arathusa. And I also have to show you the other end, which has a wonderful, wonderful marking on it as well. That quintessentially waterbuck mark of the ring around the hindquarters there, which is one of those things that all the common waterbuck have. Why it's there? Well, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure on that one. I suppose we can interpret it as whichever way we want. But what a lovely, lovely little encounter with that. So I was back with Susan about do giraffe bond with humans. Look, this giraffe definitely knew that myself and a few other keepers that I worked with in Taronga Zoo at the time that were doing this with me, or all of us as a team, hand-rearing this beautiful giraffe, who was rejected by his mum for some reason, which we still don't know why, but we did hand-rear this animal, and his name was Nagani. And yeah, you used to, when you turn up, he'd get really excited and he'd be really playful and everything, but as they get older, I'm sure, you know, we would love to think that a lot of the animals that we hand rear in captivity or whatever, see us as an old pal. But, you know, a lot of the time it'll be completely food orientated. We have to be completely honest about that. Some other animals will have a bond with humans, but one of our things in when we work with animals in any captive situation, we try not to have that sort of bond with them, because it can sometimes play on their minds or your mind on decision making, etc. But in a nutshell, Susan, giraffes, I have often gone back there. I see a giraffe back at the zoo that I'm back at now that I saw born 26 years ago, which was an incredible thing to see that she was still there. And yeah, she doesn't recognize me. Lovely. Thanks for your question. Thanks for your question, Susan. Right, I think we're going to just go back down now, and I think Jandre and I have decided we need a bit of a Karula fix. So we've let her be for a while. I'm just going to see if she's maybe moved position or gone up into a tree or whatever. We get a few better pictures of maybe her and the cubs, obviously respecting her always. But let's cross back over to James and see what he's up to, and I'm sure he's up to something, Mr. Hendry.
I'm going to walk there. Hello everybody. Two things. Just two things. Up two. No animals. Hey Brian? No, rather desolate.
Yeah.
At the moment. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
It's not a good time.
No. But I did find a flower on the Nat.Geo, and the last time I smelt it, it smelled very delicious. And they seem to have lost their scent already. Anyway, these here you can see the flowers. They are flowering, the Nat.Geo, so there's a sign of the coming season. Then, too close, I'm so sorry, Brian. Let's put it there. There we are. It's going to blow away now. I'll hold it. There you can see those very indistinct, sort of greenish yellow flowers that used to have a nice smell, but they don't smell of anything at the moment. Then, what I'm going to try and do, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to fail, is there are some flowers on the knobthorn over there. The reason I'm going to fail is because climbing a knobthorn tree will result in severe flesh wounds from the thorns. But I'm just wondering if there isn't a flower that maybe have dropped down. So let's go and have a look. Knobthorn, no flowers, some flowers. You can hear me, can you, Brian? And they're not obvious to see unless you kind of quite close. So you're quite silhouetted, so you won't see them. But they smell so nice. So I'm going to be able to get one, I'm afraid. Unless one has fallen on. Walk backwards. You can hear me now, can you? Very special to be able to smell them, everyone. But I think we'll have to wait for one lowered to the ground to flower first, and then the flowers, of course, will be devoured by various animals, and that's why you've got to find them quite quickly. The reason I have to walk backwards is that my battery pack with the microphone in it is attached to my backside, and therefore the aerial cannot face away from Brian, or you lose us. There we are. Okay, on we go. Turn around here, we don't want to go back up that way.